Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Good evening and welcome to another sparkling edition of Plank of the Week. It's Friday night. It's the one night when you can kick your shoes off and be as judgmental as you like. So get ready for an hour of absolute ribald fun, because what we're going to do is tell you who's been the biggest plank this week. And I have to say, there's been an awful lot of them. I'm delighted to say we've got a fantastic panel, all very, very sure of themselves and all absolutely clear on who they want to nominate. Leon Emirali returns, former government advisor, of course. A pretty good week for that. We've got Esther Krakue back, looking very pleased with herself. Jeremy Kyle joins us from his busy schedule. Thank you, Jeremy. Very
Pleasure.
kind. It's nice to see you. And Nadia Essex returns as well, dating expert to the stars, amongst other things. Now, we're going to be bringing you this, because this is what everybody's fighting for. Wait for the noise. There you go. Isn't that great? I love that noise. Now, it's our birthday today, guys, so before we get going, can we just wish Plank of the Week a very happy birthday?
How many years?
150 episodes.
Good Lord.
We're going to show you a picture.
Imagine doing that many.
Clip. For a clip from the first episode. Here it is from January 2020. Welcome to a brand new show on Talk Radio on TV. This is called Plank of the Week. So what I've asked Annunziata and Russell to do today, and I'm going to be doing it as well, is to come up with, say, 3 or 4 names of people that have particularly irritated them over the past week. And we're going to try and whittle it all down to one. Can you imagine? I mean, how different does it look now? Look what we've got. Now we've got Jeremy Kyle on the show.
You look like Kevin Keegan.
I know.
What was the mullet? And what was the permed mullet all about?
There was a permed mullet. There was a
Brilliant.
weird sort of black backdrop.
Yeah.
I don't know who was behind the curtain. I think Chuck was behind the curtain, sort of holding microphones.
He's been behind the curtain.
He has
a lot.
been behind the curtain.
Life,
It's like the Wizard of Oz. But it was an amazing... It's been a modest transformation. And here we are on Friday night, live, national television.
And can I just say this in your defence? Well, not even your defence. This show started online and is an absolute testament to you. It's fantastic.
Thank you very much indeed.
I mean,
it's
that's
very
great.
kind of you. Well, let's get straight to it. Leon, you've got the first nomination.
Yeah, my first nomination is the DUP, so
Yes.
Jeffrey Donaldson, their leader, because they want to vote against Rishi's Brexit deal. Now, let me tell you this. When I first started working in Westminster, I had a full head of hair.
Did you?
Then Brexit happened, and I no longer have a full head of hair. This is what Brexit does to a man, right?
Turn you into Andrew Tate.
Turned me into an Andrew Tate.
See, can I just say this? Because I know you've been on the show, but I meet so many people. I walked into the green room and I thought, how did bloody Andrew Tate get out of prison to arrive on plane? Do you get that a lot?
I do get that a lot, Jeremy. But listen, it wasn't always an Andrew Tate tribute act. I used to have a full head of hair. Brexit made me tear my hair out when I was working.
And has the beard been your sort of nod to the fact that it hasn't really happened yet?
Nod.
Nod. See?
Still there.
Brilliant.
Still there. But look, the DUP, can we just get on with Brexit? Can we just put a line under it? Because at the end of the day, I think the country is sick to death of hearing about the B word again and again.
But hang on
and again.
a minute, there's people who are in the Conservative Party, in fact 3, is it 3 or just 2 previous Prime Ministers
3
who voted against it?
There are.
3 leaders.
Three leaders. So
Yeah.
Ian Duncan-Smith,
Yeah.
Liz Truss, Boris Johnson voting against it, as well as Priti Patel. And
I feel a
few
bit
other
funny calling
high-profile.
Liz Truss the former Prime Minister. She only did it for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't really count, does it? I mean, you can take that one out.
Extraordinary
Just
to have a
take
job
that one
for
out.
40
She's
44
getting the
days.
money with $100,000 a year for
150?
being paid. Yeah, then
Yeah.
you can class her as an ex-prime
It's
minister.
a bit like one of
surely.
those guys that was manager of England for one game. You go, oh, I was England manager. And you go, well, not really.
Not really.
Sam Allardyce is a mate of mine. I still feel sorry for it, to be fair, but there you go.
Is Liz Truss the Sam Allardyce?
I think she is, actually.
Yeah, I think she might
Except
be.
she didn't get stitched up by the Telegraph.
No, but I just think we want to draw a line under Brexit, and the DUP are trying to keep us talking about it.
Well, they've got a reason for doing that. They say that they represent the views that nobody else represents. Let's have a look. Here's Jeffrey Donaldson.
The DUP was proven right on the protocol. When everybody said the DUP was wrong, they're now admitting the DUP was right. So the DUP understands the problems when others ignore them.
Why are there subtitles on that, by the way? Because I understood what he was saying.
Somebody
Do you
once told
understand
me
that?
you can always tell a Northern Irish accent before somebody, because of the way they sneeze, they go, "Achie! Achie!"
I remember being in America when things had happened. There was a couple of things that happened here, and they would put people on from places like Manchester on CNN, and they would put actual subtitles on because the Americans couldn't understand them.
I think
couldn't
it was
understand
when,
a word they were saying.
Cheryl Cole, she did a show in the US and
Yeah.
she had to have subtitles. Oh, there's another girl from Girls Aloud as well. They literally couldn't understand her.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's pretty common. I think the Tories. Here's the issue that the Tories have and the DUP. We've waited too long. when the Brexit vote came through, one, David Cameron shouldn't have resigned because that's cowardice. But two,
No, he shouldn't have resigned because
no, he shouldn't
he
have
messed it
resigned.
up.
But he called the vote. So you man up and you see to the mess, because then we had a complete incompetent in Theresa May wasting years of our time that we should have gotten this sorted. The reason why people are sick of this is not because we don't want to see a good deal, because the longer we wait, the more this is hurting them. So the people voting against it, well, guess what? They should have been at the front line when the day the vote was called, and they should have had a plan to implement it. But you can't 6 years down the line say, oh, actually, we still don't like it. Too tough.
Yeah.
Get over it.
But what about if you live in Northern Ireland, though?
Well, again,
But
blame
the
your
deal
politicians.
works. The deal works. I mean, look, it's the best of a bad case, right? I mean, Brexit was always going to be complicated. This deal seems to work for all parties involved, other than
I
the
must
DUP.
admit, I'm a bit sick to death of Brexit, but I mean, I do wish it was done properly rather than.
I'm
the
not
way it has
even
been
sure what 6 years down the line what it means.
No.
I mean, everything that goes wrong in this country now gets blamed on Brexit.
done. Yeah, by Remainers.
We're now looking, I mean, as we sit here, Boris Johnson's up amongst, the committee and this week, and he's being blamed for almost everything in the world, it seems. Let's not forget, however much people like this or don't like it, a majority of people in a referendum, whether they meant to or they didn't, whether they were lied to or they voted for it. It's a democracy. Deal with it. It was done. It should be finished.
It's absolutely
I'm
right.
with you.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's the only situation, isn't it, where people go, oh, did you vote for this? But nobody ever asks that question of any other situation. If you vote a government in, nobody ever goes, oh, did you vote for them to put inflation up by 20%?
Yeah.
No, of course you didn't. No. But you voted for them to be in charge, so let them be in charge and let them do it. But I think the Tories have let themselves down quite badly, haven't they?
Well, there comes a point where you just have to say, listen, we need to move on as a country. How long are we going to be having this debate? It's taken down, Brexit has taken down so many prime ministers when we consider it over the past few years.
I think it was actually, I was talking about this the other day, I actually think to talk about Boris Johnson, to have got that through was quite phenomenal at the time. And, the people who criticise him and say he doesn't have a great relationship with the truth will say he wasn't into the detail and all that, but he took this country with him. Absolutely, the fact that ever since then. What's interesting is if the Tories fail to win the next election, which is highly likely, it'll all be undone anyway, won't it?
It might well be.
He's in the newspaper today, having got a bit of a pension benefit on the side. Notice that?
I mean, imagine he was called a hypocrite. Apparently, there was actually a law made just for Sir Keir Starmer, just for him. It actually says, just for your pension, you can have this tax-free amount. Unbelievable. By the way, people have forgotten what it was like in 2019. I remember going day after day to the tent of shame, sitting on College Green, interviewing politicians, stalemate after stalemate after stalemate. It was horrendous. Yeah. And I heard, I sort of had an acid flashback this week because somebody said those horrible words, meaningful vote. And I was like, oh, no, what a meaningful votes. And I had so many of them, and they didn't mean anything. Yeah. So it was pretty unmeaningful, to be honest. Anyway, Esther, who's your first nominee?
So my first nominee is the entirety of Royal Holloway as a university.
Yes.
Because Baroness Fox was meant to go and give a speech about free speech.
Friend of this show is Baroness
Exactly,
Fox.
The importance of eradicating cancel culture. And she got cancelled because she retweeted a joke by Ricky Gervais saying that he liked, old-fashioned women with wombs as opposed to these new ones with penises. And apparently she was accused of being transphobic.
Like that, but it was something like that.
Was it?
Yeah.
Exactly. But the worrying thing is, students at a university that should be there to learn and to be challenged and to be being exposed to different opinions, they are arrogant enough to cancel someone because they retweeted a joke that they don't like. And for that, the whole Royal Holloway should be downgraded in terms of their ranking because they're producing lower quality graduates by default.
Everybody who's old enough to remember knows that it's not actually a proper university. It used to be called, North London Polytechnic.
It's true.
Exactly what it should still be called.
I don't want to tell you where, but I went to my daughter's university up north. I don't even know I've done that accent the other day. And she said to me, and Alice is amazing, we're really close, she said, can you just understand, because we're going out for dinner with some of my girlfriends and there's boys as well, can you just basically keep your mouth shut? Because patently anything you say, Dad, could be taken in the wrong way. I sat in a restaurant like that.
Oh, gosh.
That's ridiculous.
Thinking, would you...
You're
I didn't want...
Kyle.
No. Would you like me to pass you the butter? Oh, my God, I shouldn't have done that. You're perfectly capable of getting the butter yourself. Should I pay the bill? Oh, no, you're disrespecting me. I mean, honest to God, man, I sat there like I don't know.
But the thing is, how do we coexist with such brats? Because at this point, the inmates are running the asylum.
Yeah. Well, they'd like to run it. Luckily, they're not quite.
But they are having a huge impact. I mean, Trevor Phillips wrote a piece recently about how removing the cap on pensions, for instance, how much you pay into your pension before you pay tax, is not actually going to encourage older people into the workforce. Because one of the things they have to deal with are these young, arrogant people that are saying, oh, you don't have an Instagram, oh, you don't use pronouns, so you're a bigot, oh, you don't do this. And it's like, we have lost, one, respect for older people in general, but just general common sense. How How can students be running out people that are going to come into a room and challenge them, which is exactly what they're there to get their education for? And any university that does this needs to be demoted.
Sorry,
We've got a clip though. Let me
go
just have a look at this. This is Claire Fox in the House of Lords, I believe.
Once the event was advertised, the same student union bureaucrats claimed that 6 societies had raised concerns about me coming on campus, the evidence for which was that I retweeted a clip from a comic on Netflix.
Netflix, indeed. And Ricky Gervais's Netflix show, thankfully, is still out there because he makes so much money that nobody can cancel Ricky Gervais, can they?
My point is, you say about the younger generation, I think it's great, right? Go to university, have your opinions. Be completely different to the rest of us. What sticks in my gut from now till the end of goddamn time is, allow me to have my opinion. Don't cancel me or blank me or tell me that everything that came from my generation or everything my parents is a pile of old rubbish and should be this, that and the other.
The thing is,
you have your opinion, let me have mine. And sod
that
off.
is the issue, is the quality of kids going to university. I'm probably one of the only few people that defends humanities degrees, like economics and politics and history and stuff like that. But the number of places on offer should be cut by 85% because that should be a thinker class. You should have only top 15 universities offering those courses, and it should be about 15 students to those courses.
Too many universities, too many courses.
Exactly,
too
too
many
diluted.
Too long as well. I mean, why would you go and get in, however many thousands, tens of thousands of pounds worth of debt for what? At the end?
Those degrees should mean as much as a STEM degree because there should be fewer of those graduates. They should be just as high caliber and they should be just as much of a benefit to society.
But they're just as woke as well, aren't they,
But
Nadia?
also in university, surely I never went because I wasn't into that kind of lifestyle. Not for me.
No.
But
Filthy swines.
I know. Elitists.
But surely at university, that is the one place that you can literally have the most outrageous ideas and ideology, and people can challenge you, and you can hear and have those conversations in the safest space. Because when you go out into the real world, you'll get cancelled for saying
that was what
any small thing.
That's what I thought university was about. Go and sit till 4 o'clock in the morning and talk about everything that comes into your head with a bunch of people that you would never socialise with, that you wouldn't have come across in an environment. But what we've got now is they want to run the world. And I honestly, I found that restaurant and I thought,
it falls
Did you
out.
pay in the end?
I paid the whole bill.
Yeah,
No,
don't
you
mind
shouldn't
that, do
have.
they?
You should have let those little socialists pay for themselves.
Yeah.
No, commies. But I call one. This is the best bit. Actually, you've reminded me. I was walking through the city. I won't tell you where it is, Edinburgh, and there was a communist stand, and she went, seriously, walk in the other direction because I'm going. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Ridiculous.
How have we not got video footage of this?
I know.
It's
Unbelievable.
viral.
Well, listen, now, Jeremy, it's time for your first nomination.
I don't want to stick my neck totally on the line, but Michael, if this doesn't win, I'm not doing this again. Ladies and gentlemen, the Metropolitan Police.
Indeed, for it is they.
Baroness Case's report, 363 pages of it, right, highlighted some, appalling things. Institutionalised racism and misogyny and homophobia, stories about baking in the shoes of Muslim officers, sexual acts in showers as initiation. We saw Carrick, we saw Cousins, Cressida Dick, who should take an amount of responsibility. She scarpered pretty quickly. It is utterly disgraceful. And I'm not, listen, we always make the point, there's plenty of male and female police officers that do a good job. But Blexley said it to me last night, Scotland Yard, they are going to break this institution up. This is a joke.
They're gonna have
I
to.
think it's endemic not just in the Mets, across the United Kingdom. The whole point of the police is they're supposed... I don't believe a majority of people in this country trust the British police, and that is frightening. The Met is a disgraceful organisation. If they're not plank of the week, I'm literally
And you talk about the
walking,
police
mate.
a lot on your show.
I stick up for the police,
because
but
there's been so much, hasn't there?
Oh,
I mean, from the Nicola Bulley case, where the police were hopeless, all the way back to before Wayne Cousins.
Yeah.
You know, we've had the Charing Cross police station.
There's 1,000 of them under
WhatsApp groups.
investigation.
It's crazy. And listen, Esther talks about getting a higher quality of calibre of students in universities. We need a higher calibre of people applying to be in the police force, because these are the people that we are trusting with, effectively, the law and order of this country, and they're the ones breaking it.
And the worst part is that she even said, didn't she, that when she went in there, they thought, as in the people in the Met, thought that she'd come in, she'd have a look around, she'd probably find a few instances, but overall she would say, pat on the back, job well done. And the fact that it couldn't be further from the truth, she is surprised that they're so surprised. And it's
Did
only
you see
come
her
to a
clip
shock.
when she said, I would have thought,
We're not surprised.
after Sarah Everard, they would have looked in the mirror and gone... I mean, honestly, there's some phrase that came out this week about marking your own homework, right? So in the police forces, is if there's a complaint, apart from whether you want to be a whistleblower like Maggie Oliver and you're screwed forever, but if you dare, right, to stick your head above the parapet or you found... They do it themselves. It's like he finds me, so you all have a meet. It's ridiculous.
And then they all get
the
moved
Metropolitan
around.
Police, honestly, and I've stuck up with the police, are an absolute disgrace.
And this guy, Sir Mark Rowley, right, who
was there, by the way.
Yeah, he was there at the time running the operation that both Cousins and Bastard Dave were a part of, right? He actually ran their outfit.
Absolutely.
The diplomatic corps for the police, carrying guns. Imagine a guy like that walking around with a machine gun in Parliament, which he did, right? And apparently... he saw it all and has basically said, I was a bit busy watching ISIS and taking care of the terror problem.
Mikey,
and I take that point. But, meanwhile, the other guy who needs to answer for this, and it was actually Rishi Sunak who said it this week, is Sadiq Khan.
Yeah, absolutely.
He came out as if he'd never heard of the Metropolitan Police, couldn't understand why it wasn't working.
You sacked Cressida Dick, pal.
And
in a terrible way.
I'm not usually into this, but there was a poll out last night, guys, that said... Am I allowed to say guys, or is that going to be tough? And it literally said that more than a half of women in London are too frightened to go up to the police if they're in trouble.
Definitely.
I don't care what anybody says.
Sarah
That
Everard,
is unbelievable.
Sabina Nessa, Zara Alina,
Absolutely.
none of them phoned 999.
Good, terrifying.
None of them. So
Would you?
No.
Would you?
Yeah, well, I certainly wouldn't. But here's the thing. I've constantly railed against the Metropolitan Police, not because I'm not pro-police, obviously I am, but I think this is something that the BLM movement was missing. It's the structure of the Metropolitan Police. It's too large. I mean, Tony Sewell's report came out and said, it was actually pretty moderate. It said there needs to be a greater emphasis on community policing because you can't have trust if you don't feel like the people there are from your community, they understand you, they're there to protect you.
There's no bobbies on the beat.
But exactly.
There's no police station.
And the standards are so poor. I mean, they because of Osborne's cuts, they were saying we need to increase, the recruitment into the police force. And the recruitment, the people
But Esther, it's also common sense. Today in the newspaper that from a police station in Kent, right, there is a leaflet out saying things you should do. You should just phone the police, but don't come to the police station. It included rape. I mean, it is absolutely...
Not an emergency.
Shocking rape, not an emergency.
Well, when I was a kid, I used to want to be
Unbelievable.
a police officer, and a lot of kids did. I wonder now how many young people want to go and be a police officer.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Well, I'm sorry, excuse me, they're fat, they're not fit, they're not intimidating, they don't
Slightly
have discipline.
sweeping.
I'm sorry, and it has been taken over by these ridiculous gender ideologies. I mean, I saw a video of two female police officers trying to, reprimand this man. He elbowed one in the face and walked off. And I just thought common sense would tell you that you have to have at
We used
least
to be
a
scared
balance.
of the police when Mikey and I were kids.
Well, exactly.
We're going to bring us to a close, but what do you think this is? We're looking for someone who is compassionate, resilient, and above all, dedicated to making this city a safer place. The role of an officer is not all about catching criminals, but talking to people, taking the time to understand someone, earn their trust, respect, and build positive
therapists?
relationships.
A Labour MP.
That's an advert for the police.
Ridiculous.
Are they
Isn't it mad?
therapists? No, we should bring back standards. We should bring back fitness standards, height standards, disciplinary
Police training at
standards.
places
Exactly.
like Hendon.
Actually seeing police officers around, breaking it up, focusing on community trust. These are things that need to be spoken about. But the Metropolitan
Shame
Police
on
has
the
failed
Metropolitan.
across
Yeah,
the board.
absolutely right. It's not a bad nomination, I have to say. Mr. Carl may have nailed it.
I was hoping I wouldn't lose.
What can you all do to fight back? Nadia, who have you got?
Well,
Go on, lads.
not quite the Met, but this week my plank nomination is Wizz Air.
Wizz Air, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Never
not
before
just
have they
for
had
the
this much
name.
publicity.
Yeah, not just because they've got a terrible name and blessed. I mean, you've got Gemma Collins as your, face of it, so it can give you an idea.
Yeah.
But
It's not great, is it?
Have they?
yeah, they did. Yeah, she kind of launched it. It was
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah,
Yeah,
well.
she got paid a bit
It should be
bit of
called
money for
Was
that.
Air now, isn't it?
Yeah, Wazzers. Because the wonderful Russell Quirk, who we know and
Of
love
this
very well,
parish?
yeah,
Good man.
he had to send the bailiffs to Luton because they refused to give him the compensation that he rightfully won in a court.
Right.
And I can.
Great idea.
Brilliant. And I just think what. I would love to have been, there, a fly on the wall, when the bailiffs turned up to Luton, sort of knock, 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 as they're all...
Fly on the wall, I get that, yeah.
And they enforce this money.
Yeah.
And good on him, because, there's...
And he got the money.
And
They
he did.
cancelled a flight, I think, on the very day he was supposed to be flying with his family.
Yes.
But let's have a look at the clip. He was on talkTV earlier this week.
So I contacted the court, paid me 80 quid, sent the bailiffs in, and I wasn't there to witness the bailiffs, obviously, but they would have rocked up to Luton Airport, banged on the door and said, "Oi, you owe this Quirk fella 4,500 quid or whatever it was with costs." And eventually, 7 months on, they paid, and I've now been paid.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Can you imagine, though, and I don't want to slag off any other airlines, British Airways, can you imagine all the trouble that people have? Can you imagine if we all just sent the bailiffs into British Airways? It's a fantastic idea
It's
for
with
quirky,
80
isn't it?
quid.
Are they based in Luton? Was there? Because
I assume
Luton, the
so.
town and the airport need to be just bombed.
Esther, I was born in Luton.
It needs to be.
You are
bulldozed.
Andrew Tate.
That explains a lot. So was Andrew Tate,
He
wasn't he?
was.
That whole town of Luton and the airport needs to be bulldozed.
I'm slightly worried by how sweeping you are. You can't
mean,
just
Luton
say the
Airport
whole
was
of
no-
Luton
Yeah,
should be...
Gatwick
No,
should
you know-
follow second. I'm sorry.
Do you know what's worse? The worst thing about Luton Airport, and we don't mean it should be bombed, obviously.
Luton
That would be
Airport,
wrong.
ooh, I
No,
know.
the Luton Parkway station that you get to go to Luton
Doesn't
Airport.
take you to the
it's
airport.
nowhere near the airport.
Exactly.
I
You
feel
have to get
sorry.
off the. You have to get off
I've
the,
never
the
been
train.
to Luton.
I feel sorry for the American
lucky.
tourists
I'll
who
tell you
rock
a
up at
story.
London Luton and think they're in London.
Yeah.
Is that near Milton
Honestly.
Keynes?
They call it London Luton, but you
False
get off, right?
advertising.
And
Yeah.
they've
It's in
now built. They've
Bedfordshire.
now built some kind of. I think it's a cable car or something, or a tram, which is
Really?
now going to take you quickly to Luton actual airport, because otherwise you get off at the train station and you've got to give about another hour because you get
And
on a
it is-
bus,
honestly-
and then they wait till the bus is full, and then they take you to the airport
Yes.
in a very slow way, and it takes forever.
Listen, we're being disrespectful. You were born in Luton.
I was born in Luton.
And you
Do you
escaped.
still live there?
What
I
was
don't
it?
escape. I don't live there anymore.
Why not?
Because it's
Well, it's
Because you're in jail in
hole.
Romania.
Yeah.
That's right.
exactly that.
Day release for Plank of the Week.
Listen, Luton Airport is
Let me
not
tell you
ideal.
something.
but,
When I actually saw Luton, I was like, this is a giant barn with a tin foil over it. I was
You've
shocked. And
upset
I walked in
everybody
and the
in
horror
Luton.
Yeah.
continued.
If
It
you
is
landed
awful.
there, you would not think you're anywhere near London. That's for sure.
Oh, you're definitely not. I mean, Stansted is
Stansted
far
is much better.
Far
It's really
I'm
not.
sorry.
No.
Stansted didn't fill me with horror.
OK, all right. Well, they'll try and fill Esther Krakue with horror coming up in the next section. I'm going to be talking about another political party. It's quite a bit of Scotland going on. And an actress is going to be named as Plank of the Week, very possibly. And we'll be back up next on talkTV. Welcome back to Friday night, and it is, of course, Plank of the Week. It's my turn now, and I'm going to go straight in with, if it wasn't for the Metropolitan Police, the sure winner for the political world, the Scottish National Party, which only a week ago was actually still a viable concern. Now it appears to be burning itself to the ground because of various things that have happened.
And you're enjoying
First,
it.
we had, well, I just love the demise of political organisations because they all go around telling us what to do. You might remember Nicola Sturgeon when she's still technically First Minister. Got the shock of my life this week when she popped up on Loose Women. Did you see that? She popped up sitting right in the middle of Loose Women. And I thought, this is a bit of a weird comeback.
like watching-
She hasn't actually left yet.
It was like watching a dog walk
She
on
now
its
wants to
hind
be the
legs.
new
It's
sort of
disgusting.
Colleen Nolan. But anyway, don't forget, she was the woman who told us to wear masks, and the government said, oh, that's a good idea, we better do that as well. Shutting schools. Jason Leach, who was the sort of technical advisor to the Scottish medical lot, he was the sort of Chris Whitty of Scotland, he said this week, oh, maybe shutting the schools was a mistake. You go, oh, thanks very much indeed.
Yeah,
you know, there's hundreds of thousands of kids who are still trying to recover from all of that. But anyway, it then turns out that there's a police investigation into some missing money.
600 grand.
£600,000 worth
Not
of
loose
missing money.
change.
Now, I don't know if it's Scottish pounds, but I mean, I'm pretty sure they're worth the same amount even now. And then there was £100,000 that Peter Murrell, who was the chief executive of this SNP, also the partner of Nicola Sturgeon,
Partner or husband?
loaned. I'm not sure if they're married, actually. I think they might be married. I'm not
Maybe
sure.
for
I think they've been
reasons.
married for a while, yeah.
Well, there's another story going on about that as well, but
Yep.
we're not going to get into that here. However, here's the thing. There's a lot of murkiness going on. And the biggest murkiness started when they started going, well, we've got now 3 people who want to be the next First Minister. We've got Humza Yousaf, who's the guy that famously fell off the scooter inside Holyrood. We've got Kate Forbes, who's been castigated because she's a Christian and has certain beliefs that you know, she doesn't enjoy a gay marriage, she doesn't think it's a very good thing, all of that. Then some other woman called Ash Bregan nobody's ever heard of. Anyway.
That's her career down the toilet.
So they said, right, well, we're going to have a vote, but only members of the SNP can vote. And somebody went, how many are there? And they all went, oh, there's probably the same as there were, about 120,000. Turns out, no, 40,000 have left. And the suggestion is that they weren't going to tell anybody that 40,000 had left, and they were just going to give 40,000 votes to Humza Yousaf. I mean, that's a scurrilous allegation. I'm not saying that's exactly what they were going to do, but that's the inference of what they were going to do.
I read a really interesting article, actually, about I got slagged off for calling her that horrible woman up north. Sturgeon is one of those people who has passed judgment and tried to underpin and undermine politicians the length and breadth of the union.
Yeah.
And she and her husband have been absolutely, in 150 days, gone from this power couple in Scotland. She absolutely has resigned. He's now covered in murky
Well, he's had
dodginess.
to resign.
And that Hamza bloke ain't
Yeah.
going to win now
Well-
because that was obviously her stitch-up candidate.
They'd started the vote.
I hope Kate Forbes wins. That'll put the
No,
cat
that would
right
be
back to
fantastic.
feet.
If Kate
Won't it?
Forbes wins, it would be amazing.
The other one, I don't even know
It
her
would be
name.
terrible for Labour.
Ash Regan.
Because,
Well, but
Yeah.
here's the bit where it starts to get funny because they were all saying, no, nobody's misleading anybody. And then suddenly it all sort of started falling apart on Friday night. There's a guy called Murray Foote, who I know quite well, used to be editor of the Daily Record. He was their sort of comms chief. He resigned on the basis that he'd been giving out false information because they'd been giving him false information. And then within literally 24 hours, Peter Murrell's gone as well.
Yeah.
Not much sympathy for her and him, is there?
No, none at all. And,
Well, you know-
and it shows you, doesn't it, though? These people, they get so infused with their own importance, they think they can do anything.
Well, the
and now they're all out.
The SNP is as close as Scotland gets to the mafia, basically. I mean, that they've had power for so long now that they feel as if they're above the law, and clearly they're not, because all of these scandals are starting to unravel.
Yeah.
I have to admit, Nicola Sturgeon, I mean, we've spoken about it before on this programme, but look, during the pandemic, all she was doing is whatever England
All
aren't
was
doing,
out in
whatever
front.
Westminster
All was
aren't
out
doing.
in front.
Because she
Exactly.
wasn't accountable. And this, again, I go back, we shouldn't have
Very
given devolved
interesting.
powers, independent say over their COVID policy because Westminster has to pay for it, so basically England. But also, was no one concerned about concentrating that much power for a country in the Union in one household?
Yeah.
Because that was effectively what
Well,
happened.
there was about 3 people running Scotland.
I think
That
we
was
should
it.
salute one man who's going to be on my show next week, Alex Salmon.
Alex Salmon.
Must be laughing.
He's been on with me
'cause
this
he's
week.
a good man. He's a friend of
he's a
ours,
good
and he
guy.
must be laughing all
Yeah.
over his face.
And isn't it funny to me as well, particularly, because there was a lot of people in England who were lauding the fact that, the 2 greatest politicians that had ever walked the earth, Jacinda Ardern and Nicola Sturgeon. And wouldn't it be great if women were in charge of everything? Well, look at it now. And they've completely and utterly destroyed.
Excuse me.
Jacinda Ardern, and I've got nothing left in the tank.
Don't judge
Where's
all
she
women
from?
based on
New
those.
Zealand.
My brother
Kiwi.
lives in New Zealand.
Yeah,
mate.
she's the one with...
She had
the
nothing left
teeth.
in the tank, but Nicola Sturgeon said about a week after that, I've got plenty left
Are you
in
a
my tank.
Sturgeon fan?
No.
Are you an Ardennes fan? I thought
right.
Ardennes was a pate.
Listen, I'm afraid... Yeah, Jacinda
I prefer
Ardern.
Brussels,
that
though.
is.
Ardennes.
Yeah, can you
Not
imagine?
Ardern.
You should be in marketing. You
Yeah.
can sell it, couldn't you?
Yeah.
You can have a picture of a horse, the teeth, and Jacinda Ardern pate. Brilliant.
Mike!
There you go. Anyway, coming up, it's Leon's turn. Go on.
I don't quite know what else to
No.
say to that.
Hey, well, we're back in
Come
Scotland.
on, Tatey, let's
well,
get
he
on with
just
it.
called the SNP the closest thing to the mafia he's
He
ever
did,
seen.
didn't he? Andrew Tate can
I
say
mean,
what
I
he
only
wants.
made
exactly.
Jacinda Ardern. Come on.
Uncancelable.
Come on, Andrew. Get
Listen,
on with it.
the SNP, we are back in Scotland, but with the Scottish FA
Oh, yeah.
this time, right? So
Okay.
I feel sorry for the Scots.
It's all
because
going wrong in Scotland.
Not only have they got to put up with Nicola Sturgeon's farewell tour,
Yeah.
not only have they got to put up with actually supporting a rubbish football team,
Yeah.
they've got to pay 90 quid to wear the shirt of that rubbish football team.
Really?
So the Scottish FA have put out a commemorative
Here it is.
150-year
There's the shirt.
version of their shirt. It's a blue T-shirt.
Right.
It's a blue T-shirt, and they're charging 90
Mind you,
quid
to be
for it.
Who
fair-
gets the money?
Well,
I'm just going to order one online.
Scottish FA. Presumably, though, I mean, that's football shirts for you, isn't it? I mean, as a father, luckily my boys didn't get into football in a massive way. But if you have to buy a new football kit for your son, I mean, you
Yeah.
might have to do this, Jeremy, every single
Always
year.
about kids,
I
just
mean,
look at me. I've
you
got
know,
so many of them.
But I mean, the point is that
It's
they
true.
rip you off. They
do.
come up with, there's a new away kit this year, so they have to have that.
150,
And,
he's right,
It's
it's
a lot
crazy.
of money. I mean, actually, the Scottish one, I mean, it's not worth much, the Scottish football shirt, I suppose, but I mean, 90 quid, it does seem like
It
a lot,
does.
doesn't it?
And I
Especially
think-
because it costs 50p to make in a sweatshop
Yeah,
in China.
exactly.
Let's be
Well, there
honest.
is that.
listen,
Or
football...
Luton.
Or Luton,
Yeah.
or Luton. But football is becoming unaffordable for I think,
Yep.
the everyman, and it's just
Yeah.
not right. I mean, football's a great game.
And woman.
And woman, indeed. And,
Thanks
you know,
for
I
that,
think,
Andrew.
I think there are Jeremy, there are
Also-
a lot of people who want to enjoy watching football, and they simply can't because it's too...
And I can do this because I do have, of course, Scottish parents, so I'm allowed to slag off the Scots. They even tried to get Scotland into the World Cup in Qatar because every other country in the world practically qualified to play, and they couldn't even qualify for that. You know, although I did have some Scottish friends who went, it'd be pretty ironic if the only World Cup we get to qualify for in my lifetime, you can't have a drink. It would be an absolute nightmare. So look forward to the one in Saudi Arabia, which would be even worse. Right, Esther, back to you. Bit of
Yes.
Hollywood glamour.
This week, my plank is Gwyneth Paltrow.
Well.
Because I don't know if you saw a clip of her that went viral when she was on a podcast, that she was talking about her daily sort of I don't know what she eats in a day, basically, her routine.
Not sure.
And in the morning, because she doesn't want to have anything that spikes her blood sugar, she has coffee. And then for lunch, she has a weighty, hearty bone broth for lunch.
Bone broth?
To support her detox. And in the evening...
Bone broth?
Bone broth soup, yes.
Basically stock.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's from bones.
And in the evening...
No, it's stock.
Exactly.
It's stock. It's a fancy name for stock.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much, cow stock.
Do you eat that? Boned stock or something?
No, bone broth.
it's
So you
stock.
can make stock from, the bones
Yeah.
of animals.
call it-
But
it's
in this
the
case,
new
it's cows, I
buzzword,
think.
Is she aware that
Stop.
real food is
Chicken
available?
bones?
I mean,
But wait till you find out what she has for dinner.
What kind of bones?
Usually
from cattle,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, cattle, cow.
But hold on, do you know
Cow
want to know what
bones.
she has
Yeah.
for dinner?
Let's have a look. We've got a clip.
What,
Cow
the bones?
Yeah.
So there are just a few things that I won't eat. I don't like dill. I can't stand dill. I don't like to eat baby mammals, so I stay away from like lamb and veal, and I don't eat octopus because they're super smart.
Unlike you.
I mean,
Sorry, has anybody
Also
ever
very
come up
tasty.
to you and gone, do you know that thing about octopus? When you're about to have calamari, I wouldn't. They're really super smart.
Yeah.
They're not bloody super
well, so,
smart.
so are tuna.
Yeah, they're on a
pigs.
plate.
Exactly. But you know what she has for dinner?
Yeah,
She
they're so
has
smart,
loads
he
of
got caught by a bloke with
vegetables.
a rod.
For dinner, she has loads of vegetables, and I'm assuming some.
But how miserable is she despite 5 billion quid?
How can you live on basically, from what she's saying, about 600 calories a day?
Her breath
in
must
her-
stink
look-
and she
and
must
look
have
like
massive
that.
wind problems.
But in her defence, just in her defence.
Really?
Yeah, just
How?
because she did come out. She got so much backlash that she did come out and say she has long COVID and she's got a lot of
So-
inflammation, and this is a
Inflammation,
yeah,
or
this is
inflammation?
a detox.
This woman
And so
has
this
been
isn't her
living.
normal,
No, that's rubbish.
This is her
This woman has been living off
detoxing.
bird seeds for the last 2 decades. She infamously said she puts her kid
I mean,
on,
she is very
on a
thin,
low
isn't she?
carb diet. Exactly.
Yeah.
And she hardly eats anything.
And
is
called
Gwyneth,
her
is Gwyneth
daughter
Paltrow the
Apple.
one who released vaginal smelling
That's the
candles?
one.
Yes,
Yes.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, well, if
Yeah.
you're doing
For
that, you're obviously going to be
$75.
eating weird things,
And they
aren't you?
sold out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
thought
she
the way
loves
that
an
Andrew
IV
Tate
drip as
said
well.
that was very, very, very vaginal candles.
Yeah.
She loves an IV drip as well.
What? What did
An
you
IV,
do that for?
an IV drip.
You've done
Didn't
that.
she also
Yeah, I
pioneer
have done
the
Have I?
some kind of detoxing? What do you call it? Enema of some kind.
Yes.
Coffee
yes.
enemas.
Coffee enema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you say she has coffee every morning? Is it
Well, I mean,
in a
I
cup
have
or
no
does she
idea.
have it fired up?
I don't know. She didn't. She didn't.
Sorry.
What happens if you want a frothy coffee? What happens if it's a cappuccino?
Is that a cappuccino,
I
madam?
thought when
What
you
if you get a
brought her up,
Starbucks?
you were going to talk
Yeah.
about the fact she's in court this week.
Well, we're not going
16
into
years
that.
ago.
But apparently, yeah, because this guy says she skied into him.
She
I think.
turned up in court in glasses like that serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. Have you seen it? It's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
I have seen that. That's what I thought she was in the news
No,
for.
it's because she basically eats next to nothing and she thinks she looks good. And look, if
She
I'm
does look good. I mean, she
no,
does.
No, ma'am, she looks like a rake, okay? And she...
I don't
no,
think you can have a go at
no,
her for a
I'm
look.
sorry. She looks like... No.
Come on. I mean, you know, I know you're a woman, so you can say.
No,
I mean, I
no,
think
no.
as a man, I think she looks all right.
Yeah.
We're allowed to say that?
I think you've got to go to a break.
She
We'll
looks like
probably
a
have to edit
cornhouse.
that out. Coming up next, we're going to have more planks. How does it say here? Let's have a look. Oh, look. Oh, somebody from the government. And another bloke who's done something horrible. talkTV. I can't believe this show is going so quickly. We're near the end of it already. It's time for Jeremy Carl's second nomination. Jeremy.
Well, I'm struggling slightly because of the Met Police. I mean, I don't want to keep going on about that, but
You don't
Suella Bravman...
Don't want to overtake yourself.
No, Suella Bravman,
Bravman
the
or
only
Braverman?
person who ended up with one of the
Bravman.
third highest offices in the land, having been having lost that job and come back. But anyway, so she went to Rwanda this week, and I'm not actually... This is not
there
about
she is.
a huge argument about whether Rwanda is right or not. I think one of the things that we don't do in this country is address what the people in this country are concerned about. And they are concerned about immigration. And all those people who sit there and go, oh, but what about war-torn countries? Yeah, what about people who are struggling with the cost of living? Why I thought she was ridiculous this week is she aimed this trip as a photo opportunity. There wasn't much detail, it was sort of fluff. And she only took certain news networks and certain newspapers and managed, right, in a quest to, I guess, explain to everybody how Rwanda would work. To hack off, excuse the pun, about half of the media.
Yes.
And thus was not able...
Who were not very friendly towards her in the first place.
No, and sort of defeated the whole object of trying to explain Rwanda to people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just bad comms, isn't it? as
really
they say?
bad.
And they shouldn't really be doing that. They should be giving press an opportunity to scrutinise what the plans are, whether they like them or not. So I think that her and her team have made a boo-boo. Yeah, I think so, Jeremy.
The thing is, I feel like this country would a lot better run if they just listened to me. Because I said... Yes, because I...
You want to destroy Luton, woman. You're a nutter.
I said bulldoze. We start over. We have a do-over with Luton. We have a do-over. No, but here's the thing.
Thank God she's not in charge. You know, like I said.
Imagine her in charge.
No, hold on. I put Braverman and Sadiq Khan in the same category. They're both very untalented politicians. And I do have an issue with the Rwanda policy because I said you could have chosen any other country that's not currently at war with the Congo with regards to illegal mining of precious jewels, which could spill over, and then effectively you've sent migrants to a war zone, which is a very realistic possibility.
Let's not go too far down the Rwanda rabbit hole because
but
at the end of the day...
she's not a talented politician.
No, well, you don't know that. But at the end of the day,
know that.
people are sending refugees and have sent refugees to Rwanda for a long time, including the United Nations, including other European countries.
I'll tell you what I think.
But I'll tell you what she screwed up, though.
I'll tell you what, I think the comms she screwed up.
Well,
you can get into a huge debate about Rwanda. What we want in this country is a processing system that means that we can deal with it ourselves. We're too concerned with not upsetting the lily-livered lefties. My point is, an opportunity to explain something like that, she messed it up.
But also, because of the way things are in this country, instead of talking about exactly whether it's a good idea or not a good idea, it all turned into a picture, didn't it? Because we saw that picture earlier of Suella Braverman with the other 3 people around her at the place where they're supposedly going to put the migrants. It's being called a detention centre. It's not a detention centre. It's housing for them, right? But it all got cropped down to one picture which showed her...
But also, you should...
As just her laughing in front... I think are you going to show it to us, the cropped picture, the cropped version I need to see, of her just laughing, standing in front.
It does
I know
look
that's
very
uncropped.
evil.
I want the cropped one.
Crop it, man.
Just crop it.
It looks
God's
very
sake.
evil,
Anyway,
though.
that was the thing. It didn't look great because it was a picture of somebody laughing on a story which is not
kind of like
a
I
very
wanted my
funny
home
story.
secretary to go to Rwanda and explain to all the cynics, this is my point of nominating her, why her government, her department think this is a good idea. Let's get beyond it's Rwanda, mining, whatever. Let's talk about how this policy, short term, is going to help the British people, because that is the point.
Yes.
And how much
you
is
will
being
never
spent on
justify, Esther, whatever you say about it, you are not going to justify to the British people at £6 million a day to house these migrants. You ain't going to get away with it. And so I wanted her to go, do you know what? You might not agree, but have a look, have a think. No, we got this ridiculous...
And this is the thing, we're spending all of our time talking about the photo and the cropping of the photo rather than we are down to
And it would have been a lot better if one, as you said, as a former government advisor, she'd taken proper press and also not had a picture taken in front of the place they're going to be put, laughing.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
could she not have been doing something else?
Here's the
If
thing,
she'd employed you, it could have been Suella Braverman and Andrew Tate in front of a...
That's a headline, Jeremy. That's a headline.
I think there are 3 positions in government that are the most optics kind of focused. Home Secretary, obviously the Prime Minister and the Chancellor. And for these 3 positions, you have to get the optics right 90% of the time, because it really does kind of shape your government.
I'd add to that the Foreign Secretary,
Well,
because
yes,
Liz Truss is Instagram,
But
and
even-
James Cleverly's doing a good job on his Instagram as well.
Well, to a lesser extent, Foreign Secretary. But those 3 are the most optics focused. And I think this is something that, I mean, Jeremy Hunt, he's hard to mess up the optics because he's basically plywood. There's not much going on there. So you can't really mess that up. But Suella Braverman is not a very talented politician, and she doesn't get it. She's
Well, she
not
has
a good
a talent
orator.
for saying things that seem to upset an awful lot of people.
I'll tell you what I think interestingly about
Maybe she's
Suella
not that
Braverman.
stupid. She may be doing it deliberately.
I think Rishi Sunak has her in that job quite deliberately to pat the back of the far right of the Tory party. And if it all goes completely wrong, he can say,
There isn't really a
I
far
tried.
right, though, in the
No,
Tory
but you
party.
know what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
I know, they call it that, though.
In terms of the left, she'd be to the right.
And they hate it.
I don't think any of them are that good. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I genuinely don't think. That's why we're still obsessed with Boris Johnson, because at least there's something about him.
But this is the problem. Again, it goes back to how we recruit talented politicians, not on an 80 grand a year salary. I'm sorry. You need to quadruple their pay because you want to draw the best talent.
I'm not sure that's right.
No, you have to. Would you work
Mikey.
as an MP for 80 grand a year?
No, of course I wouldn't.
Well, exactly,
But I
because
wouldn't work
your
as an
talent worth
MP,
more than
period. But the point is, it's not giving them money that counts. I mean, there are people running businesses in this country, which are private businesses, which are also rubbish, right? Look at John Lewis. You know, people go, oh, go to private business, go and get them. John Lewis has made a massive mess up of their
but that
entire
only
corporation.
affects John Lewis. When you're a politician, you affect the rest of the country.
No, but my point is, it's a misnomer to think.
I'd be an MP.
It's a misnomer to
For 80
think
grand
that
a year.
going to private business
vote for you.
to find clever people is
I'm
the
not
answer.
saying go to
Would you
private
vote for
business,
me?
but you want to
Yes.
draw the best
The right
talent.
honourable gentleman is a tosser. You
Yes,
can
of course I would. I would. The division bell is this way.
Where's it? I'm drunk.
Excuse me. Anyway, we've got to now go to the next nomination, which is from Nadia Essex. Nadia, who have you got for us?
So, my nomination is the sick of hearing his name, Mr. Stephen Bear.
Yes. Not a lot of people will know who he is, perhaps, though. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, some will, but explain who he is.
So Georgia Harrison won a conviction against Stephen Bear for revenge porn or image-based abuse, as they're trying to.
But he's famous for what?
Celebrity
Big Brother?
He was on Celebs Good 18. I worked with him.
Okay. So you know him?
So I know him.
Oh, dear.
And I can guarantee that everybody that's ever worked with him believes that the 21 months that he got in prison is more than justice, because the crimes that he committed on Celebs Good 18 should have put him in jail, and they never did. So, yes, he got found guilty from Chelmsford Crown Court, and apparently the Essex Police, and this is where we talk about the Met and the police, the Essex Police handled it fantastically. They supported Georgia. Her documentary is on ITV this week, and just nothing but good things. And actually, when these things are taken seriously, and you know, she went to court. It took 2 years as well. They got pushed back and all this sort of stuff.
Out there, didn't
oh,
she?
She waived her anonymity.
You would really, you know, in the week that woman was jailed for lying about the grooming gangs, right? And that's the story. You have to only respect Georgia. And everything that she went through, mentally affected, business-wise, he's a... Yeah, he has to stay there. But fair play to her. And a great documentary, by the way.
This is a testament to when policing in this country is done right. It's fantastic. When it's done right, it's done really well. And this is for all of other public services. When the NHS works, it works really well.
Absolutely.
And that's the standard we should be aiming for.
And this might result in a change in the law, right, as well?
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, she's getting it moved, because ultimately I think the remit to charge is that you have to prove that there was an intention to cause harm. And the fact that you're posting in itself, of course it's going to cause harm. You're not going to post revenge porn and it not cause harm. So yeah, even the law itself is sticky around it.
I don't know much about Stephen Bear, but I can tell just by looking at him that he's a wrong un. I mean, you know, the way that...
Put this man on a jury. That's what George Carlin said, you know, the American comedian. He says, I know how to get off jury duty. You just turn up and you say, I can tell by just looking at someone that they're guilty.
Leon's never going on a jury.
He's so dumb that he literally, as he was going in for sentencing, the reporter said, you know, have you got any remorse? He went, I think in this country we should be innocent until proven guilty.
He sounds like Jacinda Ardern.
But you've been proven guilty.
Yeah.
But you know what I found can I just tell you what I thought was really frightening was a young 16 or 17-year-old girl outside the court going up to that piece of and asking for a selfie. This man did one of the worst things that can be done. And fair play to Georgia for standing up to 21 months. Listen, nothing, is he really? Let's be perfectly honest.
Well, apparently he's in jail crying every day because he's really upset, because he never, ever thought that he would be put in prison.
Sometimes that just has to happen, doesn't it? You have to
well, he pushed it too far. Like I said, I saw him behave completely and utterly outrageously when I worked with him, like, you know, grabbing people inappropriately.
But we have to say he's not here to defend himself, so we have to say that we don't. You know, I'm not doubting your word, but he's not here to defend himself.
But now he's on the sex offenders register, so we can confidently say
he's not getting back on TV anytime soon, is he?
Well, he asked again before court if anyone wants my side of the story, and I just think to myself, please don't. We don't want a documentary about Bear. No. You know, we don't want the aftermath. We want him to just go away quietly.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, we're nearly at the end of the show. Coming up, we're going to be very, very political. We're going to talk about Boris Johnson, but will he be a plank or will he be a hero? Find out coming up next on This Is the Plank of the Week. Well, here we are. We're at the end of the show, practically, but there's one nomination left because we only had 9 and we always do 10, and it's down to me. And some of you might have decided already that Boris Johnson is guilty. Some of you might have decided that he's innocent. Some of you might have decided you're bored with him, you know, somewhere in between. The fact is, Boris Johnson is still a box office name, isn't he, whenever he sits anywhere. And this week he sat in front of the Privileges Committee. He'd had a haircut. It was a serious Boris Johnson. Well, let's have a look at what he actually said to them in front of them all, including Harriet Harman.
When this inquiry was set up, I was completely confident that you would find nothing to show I knew or believed anything else, as indeed you have not. I was confident, not because there's been some kind of cover-up. I was confident because I knew that is what I believed.
Now, Boris Johnson admitted before he went to sit in front of this committee that he had misled Parliament. To which everybody said, oh, well, that's it then, isn't it? That's done and dusted. But no, because they have to prove that he was knowingly misleading them or recklessly misleading them. And I think, to be honest, I've been saying this all week, this is all a colossal waste of time, colossal waste of money. There are things that people need to know about what happened, but not this. Most people, of course, who hate Boris Johnson want him to be dead and buried. They want his political career to be over. But it's not going to be over, is it?
No, and this is the thing with the Privileges Committee. If Boris was still Prime Minister, then I think he has to go through the process because he's still Prime Minister. He's a backbench MP, for goodness sake. I mean, he's
already lost his job.
He's already lost his job, and I just think it's a charade for those who don't like him, and it's an opportunity for those to already discredit it.
Still, who have never forgiven him.
The Doomsters and the Ramonas and the
He does not a bad impression.
Yes. It is Boris, and it is vital that we get
Andrew Tate does
Brexit
an
done.
excellent impression.
Brilliant. Andrew Tate does
I think
Boris,
that's very good.
Can I just say, though, I think there are plenty of people who would say has a strange relationship with the truth, doesn't do that. And, you know, there are other people who say, we'll love him until the day he's no longer around. I would say this. I'm sure he made mistakes. I'm sure the job was virtually impossible, whatever anybody tells you about COVID. But to me, this is a ramped-up witch hunt against somebody who just let him get on with his.
How come there's not been the same amount of scrutiny over David Cameron, who brought Brexit and caused
exactly.
a
Keir
disaster?
Starmer for curry and beer.
And for misleading the House of Commons, surely you can't do any better than Tony Blair, who
Yeah,
actually
or
took us
Tony
into
Blair.
war
Yeah, like,
on
I
a
don't
false
understand
pretense.
Absolutely.
That,
why
you know,
we're, like, is genuinely taxpayers' money going towards this?
Well, I do agree.
Well, it's more than that. I mean,
225 grand
It's
so
about
far.
300. It's going to be $500,000 easily. By the time it's finished, it will be probably into the millions. But the other bottom line is, it was a very bizarre scene. You've got Harriet Harman there, who's already declared that she thought he was guilty.
Yeah.
You've got people sitting on this committee who don't like him. Bernard Jenkins was there from the Tory party, hates Boris Johnson, right? Also, in the middle of Boris's opening remarks, they all had to get up. The bell went off and go and vote in Rishi Sunak's, Windsor experiment, stroke framework, whatever. And of course, Boris voted against his own government. So it's almost like somebody's written this script from House of Cards.
Is it some
Boris
kind of
version.
distraction or something?
Look, I do
do
accept that it is a waste of time. I do.
It is.
Given
And
Boris's
money.
character, I do believe
We've
that
got
when
hardly
he said
any
it in
time
court,
left.
when he said in court in Parliament, he genuinely believed that he didn't do any wrong. I
Yeah.
don't think he deliberately misled the government.
he
But
didn't.
I think what most people have an issue with, especially with the part of the report.
We
that
haven't
was
got
so
time.
damning.
We haven't got time for what most people have an issue with. It only matters what I think, right? And it's not Boris Johnson that I'm going to call the plank. I'm going to say it's the Privileges Committee. But I now have to decide who wins it.
Okay.
And I'm not going to give it to myself, am I?
I'm just saying, hold on.
Jeremy's on the
Hold on,
phone. I think I'm going to have to look around and I'm going to have to give it to Jeremy Kyle for the Metropolitan Police, because why wouldn't you? The Metropolitan Police, you are today's and this week's Planks of the Week. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you to everybody. Nadine Dorries coming next. This is talkTV.